You are watching WBS TV.
With us this morning, Julius Mukunda from the Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group, but also Forum for Women in Democracy. A very good morning to you, Julius.
Good morning. How are you?
How are you?
I'm fine. Yes.
You must be happy.
Depends on what the happiness is. But the morning is good. Definitely, the morning is good. Yes.
Having had the president yesterday speak to the nation.
Yes, I think as far as Forum for Women in Democracy is concerned, and the Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group in particular, it is a very, very important event in our calendar, the State of the Nation address, because it helps us tell the president as the head of the state, the person who is in charge of our lives actually, tells us where we are in terms of our livelihood, in terms of the performance of sectors. Where are we? What have we achieved in the last financial year? The State of the Nation address also tells us that you gave me money last financial year. This is what I have used the money for. And these are the challenges that are facing the nation. And I think I like the president when he again he listed down the 10 most constraining factors to our development.
Is the bottlenecks.
The bottlenecks to our development. And yes, yeah, which is very good. But at the same time, you tell us how the future is very bright for us. Even if it is very challenging, but you tell us, yes, I think in the next financial year, we intend to concentrate and remove these particular bottlenecks. So for us, this is a very, very important event in our calendar. And then from there, then we look forward to the next week again and see, okay, how are we going to translate these promises into action? How are we going to spend the money? So when I look at now the State of the Nation address, again, I think, first, I think there are certain things we have talked about for the last 3 or 4 State of the Nation addresses, which up to now, I think as Ugandans, we are still saying, what is happening? We haven't known our status. We've talked about the bottleneck, for example, of ideology. Ideology has not come
For this orientation.
has not come this financial year. It has come even the other part. But you know, remember that patriotism also was the whole issue of last year and also the other years. Either we don't know about it properly, to touch this problem properly, or we are doing it completely wrong. But how patriotism is not helping us to achieve the economic growth we want. But for me, most of all, is that agriculture has been very key in all these states on modernize agriculture.
But before you go to agriculture, I want you to help, a viewer outside there. You could be having, because I've failed to explain to our viewers what the meaning of ideological disorientation means. Who is he meaning? The ministers, the country, everyone? Does he all bracket us up all?
I don't think for us we have any ideological disorientation, because even if I had an ideological disorientation, I don't have a means of stopping any investment that is coming. I think he's targeting the technocrats and the members of parliament and his own ministers. But basically I think what he's trying to say is that this is the vision I have, but people are not buying into my vision. Instead they are pulling me aside. And if we start fighting around, then there is nothing that we are going to achieve at the end of the day. And I think he gave the example of the Karuma Dam, which we are supposed to have had 5 years ago, and because of these infightings, we could not have it. So I think he's trying to say this is the ideology, this is the vision we have for this country, but we have so many people who don't understand what it takes to achieve this particular vision. But you also have the other group which says, but I think this vision probably is not the right one for this country. So a consensus must be brought on board to agree on this particular way of achieve this particular vision. And I think that's why the president is getting frustrated. Yes.
But could you justify that as one of the bottlenecks to economic growth, really?
In his argument, he could be right. Let's look at Karuma, for example. People fought about Karuma for 5 years. A project that was supposed to have been completed a long time ago. So in terms of investment, it was definitely affected. But I think people have their genuine reasons as to why they are fighting these particular investments. First of all is that I think the corruption levels are so high. If we don't follow the right procedure also, and we just dump on it, let's look at the ID project, for example, and people are saying the way you procured, the procedures that were followed, the person who's supposed to supply all these elements were wrong, and you still insist, no, we must have
We
it.
must have the IDs.
Now that's when everybody is like, people start calling you are not a patriot, you are not patriotic to your country, you don't support the vision, and then this become a problem. And I think that's why we need a national consensus on these national objectives of the country. Yes.
And then when you look at developing human resource, promoting private sector, if you follow the bottlenecks the president gave in 2012, and you try to compare them with this, the only difference was on two, I think. Exporting raw materials and I think developing, developing, if you talk about that, what else did he say? Modernizing services. Because to me, they're almost the same things he spoke about in 2012.
Simply because, my friend, is that we are all aware about these problems in this country. We know these problems, and they have never changed. Ever since this country got independence, we know these problems, and they have never changed. We can call them different names, but the problem still remains the same. If human resource is our biggest problem, it's because we don't have the right medical personnel, it's because our ICT is still low, it's because our school system needs to be revamped. Me and you, we know for the last 10 years, these have been the problems of this country. And therefore, if we don't prescribe the right solutions to these problems, like for example, ensuring that we ensure that our clinics and schools are well equipped and facilitated, then that still remains the problem. I will give you an example. We were looking at agriculture ministry and we found out that actually that it is, the local governments actually, that some local governments that on average, they are being staffing at 55%, which means the other people who are supposed to do the work are not there. Even in some new district, you find a district is staffed at only 10%. So it tells you that in terms of staffing the right personnel to deliver a particular service, that one constrains the development. So we know about this, but what are we going to do about it? I think that should be the fundamental question we need the president to answer for us. That yes, these are the challenges, and we're going to confront them in this particular manner. So human resource is a problem. Look at agriculture. For the rest, we are telling please agriculture, because 68% of the population get their life from agriculture. But we know these are people who just dig, they are using rudimentary methods of farming, they don't have fertilizers, they are not educated, they don't have the right materials. Let us provide it. We keep talking about it, but agriculture still gets less than 4% of the entire budget. In fact, it is even reducing, because last year it was getting 3.4. This particular year, the indicative figures are telling us they're going to get 3.2% of the entire national budget.
Oh my God.
So for us is that, okay, now we know the problem, but we need the solutions to do something about this, Mr. President. And I think for me that's why the president, again, we want him to give us the answers on. We are glad, by the way, that the president mentioned about restructuring NADS. And we told him about this 3 years ago as civil society organization.
You're organizing NADS.
NADS is very good. Thank you very much. It is the only, I'm telling you, it is the only government program that interfaces with the common person.
True.
But if you go to a district, you find that almost 80% of the NADS money that goes, first NADS take up around 57% of the entire agriculture budget. Huge amount of money. It is perfectly okay, because it is the only program that actually is getting the people. But out of that, the money that goes to a district, 80% of it is spent on human resources, wage and non-wage, allowances and salaries. This is what we had with our MPs. We took MPs to Katakwi. And it is so frustrating, because if you get now the whole entire money is spent on the personnel, then little is remaining to give to the farmers. And I'm very glad the president actually mentioned this, that actually we need to structure this thing.
He says that it is going to concentrate on giving materials to people. So what does that mean now? They're going to simply not hire this the personnel?
People need three things. They need inputs. I've told these people. If you train, let me tell you, my mother knows how to grow bananas. All the problem she's facing is that she doesn't have the right input for bananas. When she gets banana wilt, the only medicine is for the parish chief to come and identify whether she has got banana wilt, get people to cut the banana plantation. So that is the only medicine. So what she needs, she needs the, yes, she only needs the right variety of a banana that is resistant to banana weevil. That's what she needs. She needs the right pesticide, so that if there is any other disease around, she's able to treat the banana plantation.
Yeah.
So that's what she needs. So farmers need inputs. But maybe she also needs fertilizers, and I think that's something the president should invest in seriously also. Yes.
We did not have a lot more new stuff in the station of, the State of Nation address, and the president considered defeat and said, you know, because of this and this, by mentioning the 10 bottlenecks, we were not able to fulfill. We didn't have anything fresh in that context. Could it be because we are trying to capitalize on fulfilling the prior promises that the president gave? Or it could be that we do not have a lot more fresh ideas. What do you think that could be?
I think it is a reality checking, really. You see, it's a reality checking. It's actually come to believe that we shall not need miracles from heaven, that the solutions are here, and that the problems that we know are here. We don't need to create new problems. I think it's sort of a reality check. I think the president, again, why I again praise him, he's sort of like, he didn't want, you didn't hear about Nabagagawale in his state of administration. No, because that thing, to achieve it, you need 50 years to come down the road. You do not hear prosperity for all. No, this time it was not that. Simply because I think it's a reality check. I think he's trying to tell us that, I think we can visibly and quickly know what we can achieve and what we can't. And let us concentrate on what we can as a nation. And we know we don't have enough money, that's number one. Two, we know that these projects take long for them to be done, to be implemented. And therefore let us calm down, use the money and the resources that are available to take us ahead. And I think for me that is the key message as Ugandans we should be able to take. Instead of giving us false hope that all these dams, all these roads are going to be built within one financial year, I think, we have come to realize that you can't even.
And could it be that failing to achieve what was promised in the previous State of the Nation address could be out of overly expecting and anticipating for things, or just because of the bottlenecks that he gave? Could it be that some of the promises were overboard and couldn't easily be achievable?
Just maybe to be a bit diplomatic, maybe we're a bit too ambitious as a nation. Even as an individual, there's when you can be ambitious, over-ambitious. I think we're a bit over-ambitious. I think we thought we would get oil money very quickly because when Taro gave us the other money which we pumped into, and then Karuma came on board, we thought, oh, actually we can get more money and do more new things. I think we became a bit too ambitious. But also I think we underestimated the effect of the economic crisis in this country. You see, the economic crisis, the way it affected us, it is not like how people were affected on the Wall Street. No. Ours is a long term, but surely way is a long term. The way it was affecting us, it was slowly, but surely. That you have inflation going up, for example. Steadily. Yes, steadily. Petrol prices going, you don't immediately feel it, but in the long term, you begin now to feel the pinch of the economic crisis. And that now, because these donors, for example, had commitments with us, they couldn't cancel immediately, but in terms of new agreements, then they withdrew because now they are being affected the other side. So we didn't take into consideration that one, and I think that one also has affected the performance of our economy. But these bottlenecks have been there for the last 10 years. They have been there for the last 10 years, and I don't think they could be the clear reason as to why we have underperformed. But also above all is that, again, you know the way we perform here. We have told the government that please let us restructure and look at the way we do business in this country. It takes you a whole 3 months to get a license to do business. That's ridiculous. Try to get a passport in this country. It takes you a very long time. So I think there are some of the things that the government needs to begin to look at and say, I think we need to restructure our system to ensure that we have a very good business for friendly environment. Let us tackle corruption, for example, that we can save money and put where it is mostly needed. So I guess for me to answer your question is that probably we're a bit too ambitious. We can't build all these roads, have all these railways, have all these waterways in one financial year. It just doesn't come.
Well, when you look at one of the bottlenecks, and this is what I looked at yesterday, and you know, I got so many thoughts in my head. The one of consolidating democracy. It says, as one of the barriers to economic growth, we have, as a country, failed to consolidate democracy. I thought you consolidate what you have. Maybe I don't understand. But do you think, who is he? Is he attacking himself on this, or the country? Who has failed to consolidate democracy?
I think, again, to me, is that let us appreciate that we are in a transition.
Yes.
That for the last 10 years, we had this one-party system. And there was this hangover. People, there is this hangover of saying the individual merit. I can say what I want beyond the party, and that I think the internal wrangles within the party system is affecting coherence in terms of having a one party that is focused to do one thing. So you have a party that is already split. Members are not supporting its position on the floor of parliament. I think that is very embarrassing as a country. So probably I think that's what he meant by consolidating democracy. So if you have a party system, your own, and you have all these MPs who are opposed to most of what you are doing, that's a very big challenge for him, by the way. And I think that's why you can see him is at the top of it. He's a top petitioner in court. He wants really to see how he can take charge, take charge of parliament. But also, I think you have all these dissenting voices. I mean, the opposition all the time, how they are being treated, and I think we are seeing even the public arena. You have the public order management bill. You have these media houses being clamped down, and you have all these pressures from outside. You know, we are doing something wrong. We are doing something right. So I think he's feeling that there is pressure on him now in terms of the democratic principles of a nation that are falling apart. And he feels that if he doesn't do that, then you have more enemies. Not enemies, but you have more people who are not in agreement with you. And that is a challenge, again, in terms of development. Because you will go to a party and please, I need some help, and they're able to tell you, no, I think in terms of your credentials, these things are not very good.
And
yes.
well, like Moses said, you can only consolidate what you have. And talking about democracy, do you have? We have the democracy that he is calling upon for consolidation.
I think he has something for sure.
He has.
Let us give.
The question is,
yes.
who is
extent,
failing to consolidate
yes.
it?
Oh, okay.
Is it the MPs? Who is failing to consolidate democracy in this country?
But I think, you see, he's the president, and therefore I think he's sending a message to Parliament.
That Parliament is failing to consolidate
That
democracy?
is failing to help him to consolidate democracy.
Okay.
How?
That is the reason
How many
why-
bills have been thrown out?
Yeah.
Even we has the majority in the majority. in the
I
party.
think the president here forgot that he was actually directly attacking his own government.
Now I think he's shifting blame to somebody else.
Who, the prime minister?
I think I think he's shifting the blame to Parliament, because he has always complained about Parliament, that it is doing things against his wish. Things take long in Parliament, but I think it's a question of consensus. It's not that my vision, my view is always correct. I think it's a question of consensus.
Very true.
What should take us forward? And I think that's what is lacking. Yes, that's what is lacking. And people, I think the caucus is abusing the powers of the House. Having the majority in the House doesn't mean that you should actually subjugate or marginalize the other voices. So, in a nutshell, I think for me he's shifting blame, but I think as a man in charge, should be really taking a step.
And then there was this issue of the oil pipeline. He finally agrees that we should have the oil pipeline constructed in Uganda. Again, he says, however, we need to have a refinery.
You see, this is the reality checking I was telling you.
And
Have a
he
refinery, you
says
need
the
billions.
pipeline is wanted by our people,
Yes.
the donors.
This is the reality checking. We don't have the money to build a refinery. Period. What do you need to do if you come to Julius? I will tell you. The way I see Uganda in the market, we might not sell enough fuel. Let us have a pipeline to the sea, where we can sell more fuel to other people who can bring their ship, their anchor, and we pump oil into it. period. And you keep on saying, no, no, you see me, I want my refinery. Say, fine, you can have your refinery, but
yes,
then I'm
it
not
would
part of
work,
that.
but the money, probably, could that be
Are we
something
reaping
we
our-
can look
yeah.
at later on?
The what?
The refinery, having the refinery, could it be something that we could look at after, you know, constructing the pipeline and selling enough oil to them? Do you think it would really be advantageous to Uganda and helpful in any way?
Look at this. You've now built a pipeline to the sea, isn't it? Now you want to build a refinery?
For what?
So for what? Why? Because all the oil is being transported to the sea, which means that when you build a refinery, you stop the pumping of the oil in the pipeline. So the money you have wasted in the pipeline, you have wasted the money in the pipeline. Now you are building a
Wasting money in the
on the refinery. The refinery would have been better for us because once we have a refinery, we have all these by industries that come around it.
The raw
It is the
materials
best.
and everything,
The raw materials, the jobs, everything will be
We
around.
do not have the capacity to.
But not the capacity, but we don't have the money to set up a refinery. Let's just be as simple as that. We don't have the money to set up the refinery. But as you see, as again, from the civil society perspective, is that we would be having this money if we could stop a number of leakages. You know, all this, you see, corruption is something that sometimes we say, we make it simplistic. But if we stop leakages, we can be able to find our own refinery. If you stop all these leakages, you can save money, start building a refinery. But because we have these leakages into the system, there is no way we can build our own refinery. And I think the best possible measure for us to begin getting money from oil is to agree with the investors to pump oil to the sea. Agree with Kenya, have our pipeline, we pump oil to the sea so that we can start getting some more money.
But when you look at it on a bigger picture, we were getting excited about a refinery because then we would reap big out of our oil.
True.
Because you have all the byproducts of the oil, you have the crude, but now you're exporting, you are sending away everything the way it is.
Crude as it is.
Crude as it is, so the person who is getting it is getting crude, then after that, he's getting over
Fine
3
oil,
or
yeah.
4 materials out of it. Are we as a country going to reap big out of this oil, really?
I think that this is a sad moment then that we are going to look at, that the excitement we had in oil is actually going to blow away very soon. Because if we don't have a refinery, we're going to get less money than what we're expecting. And that's why some of people are saying, why don't you concentrate on these other sectors? Let's invest in agriculture and tourism. So that by the time oil money comes, we are not distracted, we continue, because in any case we won't get finished. Because I'm telling you, if we don't build a refinery, then there is little money we're going to get.
You talked about us not having the money, and you mentioned an issue of leakages and corruption. But according to the president, it didn't seem to be one of the bottlenecks to economic development.
In fact, in his words, he says that, let me look it for you, let me look it for you, let me look it for you. It is here. NRM will continue handling bigger problems than a mere bunch of thieving public servants. Corruption, I can handle it. He calls himself an expert in fighting it. That's what he said yesterday. It's a bunch of simple thieving public servants.
I think the president again. I think
Do you think he probably underlooked corruption?
He downplays
as
it.
one of the causes, of not fulfilling the economic development in the country.
I think he was unfair to this country on that perspective of corruption. He was extremely unfair to his nation that he's ruling, because corruption really is hitting us so badly. It's left and right is hitting us. People's pension are going away. Kazinda today is getting a judgment, and the assessor was saying that the money should be quitted because there was,
yes.
I was shocked. So if you acquit a man, now where is the money going to come from? But the money got lost.
It did.
So hopefully justice will be done. You have all these scandals, and even you have these small ones, the NADs, the 5 goals are supposed to be given out, only 2 are given out, and it is a micro, and it becomes a macro issue. It becomes a very big issue, and surely for the president to stand up and say that this is very simple, they're going to handle it. And for the last, I think, 10, 15 years, this has been a problem that is coming. I think it's extremely unfair to the country. When we were looking at the supplementary budget, one of the key figures that came out was the amount of money that the government paid paid to the donors as a result of the money that had been 30 billion. And sure, I think that's, to me, to say that a billion is something very simple is extremely unfair for the country.
Yeah, very true. And maybe finally from me, as we prepare to leave, time is not on our side. It was a state of the nation. State of the nation. Do you think that in itself was fulfilled? Did we talk about the state of the nation, or there is something that probably the president left out that Ugandans should have been looking at?
Yeah, I think the president talked about a few things in the state of the nation. Our reserves have come up again. You know, we are very badly off. We come again to 3.3 billion, something like that.
Foreign exchange reserves.
Foreign exchange reserves.
Billion US dollars. Inflation, you say, is down by 3.6%.
Yes, but you see, we have a problem with that.
That is a lie.
I have a problem with that because you see, yes, it was at 30%, which was very bad, and they managed to bring it down to a single digit with level. But it came at a very heavy cost. That when it came down, interest rates in the bank shot up high, and small businesses could not access loans. And the manufacturing sector growth has reduced again. So that was not a very good measure. But anyway, that was an achievement that they came up with. But I think Ugandans wanted to hear more about the State of the Nation address. We wanted to hear from, for example, the poverty rates. We wanted to hear about performance rates. You know very well that the children who are leaving primary 1 up to primary 7, only 23% of them complete completion. So what happens to the rest who don't complete? We wanted to hear issues to deal with the access to agricultural services. Where are we and what are we going to do about them? But at the same time, I think the president should have told us broadly next year, where are we going? What are we going to do? And I think we wanted the specifics in terms of these are the kilometers of the roads that I built this financial year with the money you gave me, and I'm planning to build this number of roads in the next financial year. This number of clinics I built last financial year, and these are the number of clinics I'm going to build in the next financial year. I think you're gonna needed more information in terms of this State of the Nation address that we wanted the president to look at.
Okay, before I look at the expectations for next week, the budget, you know, I was with an analyst who told me, you know, President Museveni's speech yesterday was a reply to his 2012 address. He was simply defending his weaknesses. It was a reply to his 2012 address, and he was simply defending his weaknesses. That's what this person told me. But as we prepare to go, looking at what the president said, maybe he forgot to choose the right word to use on how to deliver his message to the country. But expectations for next week, the budget. What should be the priorities according to you? Of course, we all know they have already said them. And
yes, but we hope that from now up to June, each one can look at the draft speech again and include the following areas if they are not there. Number one is that we need more money for agriculture, and specifically we need money. We need to restructure the agriculture credit facility. If they can't give us an agricultural bank, we need an agriculture credit facility that can address the needs of the small-scale farmers, because the current one that is there is only for commercial farmers. That's number one. Two, we need him to specifically look at the production of fertilizers so they can give them farmers, but also we are happy that NAD is going to be restructured to concentrate more money. 80% of the NAD's money must go for inputs. That's one. On the health side, we want to increase the personnel in health centers, because as you can see at the local government level, the staffing is very low at 55% on average. So we want to see more health personnel being deployed, but also their salaries and emoluments being increased. We want more medicines because the drug stock out is very high, and we want to see that more drugs are in hospitals. And you saw in the newspapers, we don't have blood. No, these guys wanted 18 billion and they were only given 7 billion. It is blood. There's no way you can get away from apart from collecting it. You can't manufacture it. So again, I think we need resources for health, and the health budget I think has also reduced slightly. So that is health. In terms of education, I think our quality of education is seriously being questioned. It is very low. It's so bad. A P6 child can't read or do numerous of P3 class. That is serious. So we need more teachers, for example, and also their salaries definitely to be increased and undernumerated because the dropout rates are so high, especially for girls. So we need those particular areas. And we want the president in the next budget speech to put serious mechanisms of addressing corruption. I think for me, people of late, corruption is something very easy. The public finance spirit which is coming must strictly put very heavy measures and burdens that if you touch any public resource, your life should be next on the line to be hanged. Yeah, because currently the provisions are that you are fined very little money, so you can pick big and find very little. So it's an incentive to steal money, but it should make you should really, by the time you want to put your money in the bag, you have to think about your life first.
But that bill is another loss to this country. Yeah. Looking at the powers the minister has, you know.
Yeah, but we are hoping in July that...
Give us your other views as we end.
So I think as we do so, another area we would really be very interested in is to ensure that the road sector is still another big issue. That we have concentrated more on the national roads, the Entebbe Express Highway and the others, but we want the district urban community access roads money to be put into them. And lastly, I think is also the rural water. There is more money being put into the urban water, but then 80% of the nation are in the rural areas. So we wanted the rural urban water budget line also to be increased. Yeah, and those could be a few things that we would have loved to hear in the next budget speech.
Your next budget speech. Thank you very much, Julius.
Thanks so much for inviting me.
We are glad that you managed to come and at least give us some little bit of analysis of the President Museveni's address yesterday to the nation. To some people, he didn't speak anything new. To others, he was simply addressing and replying to his 2012 address, while as to others who were simply defending his weaknesses in the year 2012. But whatever he said, whatever he meant, he's the president, is the fountain of honor, and we're glad at least he finally came out and addressed the nation. Though there were issues like the said you said I didn't speak about the closure of the media, I didn't speak about that. He didn't, he left out so many things that the people thought he was going to talk about that are affecting the country right now. Okay. Next week, probably we'll have you again next week.
Okay.
The budget.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
Thank you very much. We take
Thanks
a break
so
now.
much.
We come back with Daniel.
You are watching WBS TV.